Welcome back to 10 Cents Podcast. I am your host, Robert. I am sitting alone in my basement because I am quarantined. But
Yay!
But lucky for me, I have Adam on Skype, and we figure out how to do this remotely, and we actually feel like talking about things this week. Whereas last week, I'll admit, I really didn't want to talk about anything to anybody.
We're not going to make this a regular thing. I can tell you that already. I don't like being not in the same room.
But you are in the same room. I'm literally touching you. I am breaking the social.
No.
I am rubbing your elbow ever so gently.
That's not how this works. No.
Yes, I am.
Don't make it weird, man. Don't make it
we're
weird.
We're holding hands right now.
No. Don't make it weird, Robbie.
Oh,
You're making it weird.
Here, get into that mic a little better. There you go.
Oh, Jesus.
This is the social distance violation room. We're violating the social distance rules in my basement.
From what I've seen thus far, no one gives a shit about that anyway, Robbie.
No, and all those pictures of Des Moines are complete crocks of shit. They were just timed really well. If you go to West Des Moines, it looks like a normal fucking Friday.
Yeah, I spent all day Monday downtown, and there's certainly less people down there than normal, but it's not a barren wasteland like the pictures I saw on Facebook.
No, and I wasn't about to get into an argument on Facebook about it, but I was like, those were timed really well, and it's not accurate.
Yeah.
So
I'd like to know how long it took for that person to get that picture.
This was taken at noon. Yeah, but you stood there for 4 fucking hours. But hey, whatever.
Yeah, just waiting for just the right moment.
I really, really don't want to get into that because I've been in a really bad mood for almost 2 straight weeks about it. So I think you and I are in the same boat. We are both not happy, but we are happy about the rest of the season and what things are transpiring in our lives.
I hope that it's not for nothing, Robbie.
It's never not for nothing. Is that a proper way of saying that?
I don't know.
It's never not for nothing.
I just hope that something comes to fruition here.
I think it will.
Something
has to eventually. 3 years from now, 3 months from now, eventually.
Yeah. 2021.
Yeah, hindsight's 2021. But anyways, I am in the Kanka Motorsport studio where we defy the rules of quarantining. But if you are...
I am surrounded by Hot Wheels and Thomas the Train toys in my 4-year-old's bedroom.
Nice. Because that's the only place you could plug in your wall outlets.
Well, it was the only place where I was alone and could plug in.
Oh.
Because I could have had my 4-year-old sitting next to me, but I didn't think that was going to work well.
No, that would not work well. I don't think
Katie's hoping that she can restrain him enough to keep him out of here while we do this, but we may have a third guest at some point unannounced.
People love kids, so it'll be considered adorable, right? Like you've seen the video where the news anchor's trying to do a professional report, and then all of a sudden his child walks in, and then his younger child's in like a stroller or a bouncy thing comes in, and the mom comes running and just grabs the kids and tries to sneak them out, and it's actually more dramatic by the way she does it. Yeah, it's like that.
I know a couple of our local radio DJs are broadcasting from their houses. And one of them had his 5-year-old running through his makeshift studio yesterday while I was listening.
That's awesome. So, yeah, it seems like everyone's just doing it from. I saw XM is doing free XM. You can listen to XM radio. Yeah,
there's a lot of stuff going on where it's either reduced or it's free, or you might already have it, but now you get premium features or something like that for free. So
no,
it's kind of nice.
Yeah, that's a nice little silver lining because I do get to listen to Jason Ellis now, which is cool. And then
there you go.
And
he's still doing his thing there.
Yeah, I think so. I think they're on a different channel. I'll have to find out tomorrow.
Oh, okay. I gotcha. Oh, that's right. You probably haven't really.
I have not listened to morning or radio in 2 weeks, and that changes tomorrow, starting Thursday.
Well,
so. But we can get into this.
Let's talk about other stuff.
KangaMotorsports.com. He's been keeping himself busy. He's been quarantined for longer than I have. He's been writing articles. He was actually featured on not this week's but last week's. This would be probably almost 3 weeks ago now. It's about Ross Bentley's Speed Secrets. So he was one of the featured writers, and that was a really interesting article. And then just recently he wrote How to Take Better Track Notes, and that's been super helpful for me because I've actually printed off a bunch of track maps. I was ready to go for the season. I'm like, all right, I got multiple copies of track maps. I can take notes, and this is kind of perfect timing for me, even though we can't get on track for a while. But definitely was in the front of my mind. So thank you, James, for writing that article. And if you are also in the same boat as me, thinking about the season, sorry, then this is a perfect article for you, so you can try to improve your driving and take better notes.
See, I find that kind of interesting because I remember it's been quite a while back now, but we had talked about the fact that you already take some level of track notes.
Yes, I do.
And that it seemed like you were already taking more detailed notes than most of your fellow competitors.
I don't know anyone that's on the local level that's taking track notes, at least not like in a way that I can see them doing it. Maybe they might sneak off and do it by themselves, but I sure have never seen it. But I never. And
then you go and you say, well, like, James is doing this like way more detailed than I was even doing it. So
yep, and
it's kind of funny, you know.
Yeah, and I think
think about.
I think it's definitely personality based. So I know, like with Z3's Directions team, Jordan Ruby, also an engineer, takes the best track notes apparently. And
yeah, I remember Booney talking about that.
So it doesn't surprise me that he's really diligent about it, that James is really diligent about it, or that I have every intention to be, even though last year it was kind of like a back burner afterthought. So this year I'm hoping to be very more into that and then using it effectively. So So last year was more about getting comfortable on track. I mean, obviously that's still a huge goal for me, but if I can get on track this year, the goal would be to be able to take that and start putting notes to paper and then improving specific things rather than just comfortable on track.
I wish that I was like some level of competent app developer, because the thought of writing down paper and pen notes could not be more frustrating to me.
Which is funny because I'm the polar opposite.
As far as I'm concerned, if I have to touch a piece of paper in my day-to-day life, that is a failure on whatever it is that I'm doing. I don't think that we should be giving out receipts anymore. I don't think that I should ever have to touch paper at work, that everything should be digital. It should be done through our project management software, or it should be done through emails, or it should be done through our fleet management software, or whatever it is, because we have all those things, and people still give me paper, and I still tell them, I don't want this. Don't give this to me.
Why are you?
I will lose this between where I am and my truck. I realize that it's 10 foot away from where I'm standing. I will fucking lose it. Don't give this to me.
Why are you this way about everything besides cash? Because you should.
Actually pro. I'm pro not cash. I don't like cash. I'm just saying that you're wrong about cash. I'm wrong too, Robbie.
Fine.
But I don't have Venmo either. I've never gotten any of those.
I've gotten like every app, because if I go on Craigslist, I need to go and be like, all right, which app do you have? Okay, I got that one. I don't buy
Craigslist.
I do. Ever. That's all I do. I'm so cheap. If I can buy it used locally, I will. Where was I?
Nobody's locally selling used Omni parts, so it's not really a thing.
Where'd you get that supercharger? Locally.
I bought that through eBay, and it was kind of local, I guess. But that was complete coincidence. And I bought that on eBay, and I had to pay through PayPal.
Oh, yeah. Which is much more convenient. Anyways.
Sure.
But it's kind of funny, though. For notes, though, I'm the polar opposite. I need pencil to paper. Like in college, I would take the tablet and I'd try to take notes on it, or like if the professor would print notes or give you pre-written notes that you would fill out, I had to print them and then write them by hand because I remembered them 10 times better. So I think it's to each their own for me, but like I have to write it with a pencil or pen on paper if it's going to stick. Whereas I think you have a much more photographic memory than I do. I think that you can see something.
Yeah, probably.
You can see something and remember it 30 years from now. Whereas if I see something and it doesn't just get like burned into my brain, I forget it immediately. So I have to write it down. So it has to go from the pencil through my arm to my brain, and it has to be a conscious thought, whereas you can picture it and I can't. I do think that's a very big difference between you and me.
That's probably true. I'll give you that one.
So, thank King Motorsports for better tracking.
I need to figure out how to shut off notifications on my Facebook because it keeps dinging at me while I'm trying to talk to you.
You know, if you weren't so damn popular, you wouldn't have to worry about that. I get no notifications all the time.
I'm in like 40 group chats with the same people. That's what's weird about it. Like,
yeah, but you kick one or two people out of each one.
Huh?
So you just got to kick one or two people out. Like, if just combine everyone, because every group has like 3 of the same people, but they're not all the same people.
Yeah.
We just need one.
It's all Dalton.
Damn it, Dalton. Do you ever get that? How far along is that cage on his vet?
He posted some pictures of it on his Facebook, I think.
Yeah, I saw
about it being pretty far along. I think it's almost done.
He should be able to pick that up here pretty soon. Then have it for sure ready. He'll have no excuse.
I don't know that he can go and pick it up, but
in the next few weeks, I bet. Just
hopefully.
Leave it. Well, he can leave it outside and he can pay with Venmo. No cash exchange.
Well, yeah, but he's still traveling, which you shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, but if you're by yourself, you're fine.
Yeah, you still got to get out of your vehicle and like touch gas pumps and stuff. It's a gross and disgusting world out there right now, Robbie.
Gas pumps are always gross and disgusting.
I know, but now it's extra bad.
Yeah, you don't want to touch those. That's a hot zone that people don't even think about.
It's true.
That's worse than a grocery cart.
Yeah, I got to get gas in my work vehicle every single day.
Do you carry hand sanitizer with you? The only hand sanitizer that I have left, that I actually had because obviously everyone hoarded it, is what's it called? It is pineapple sorbet scented. So I squirt it on my hands, do the little fire stick starting a fire thing, and then I walk into anywhere that I go, and then I smell like a teenage girl. So everybody knows how great my hands are.
Well,
and I'm pretty sure there's moisturizer in it too, because it was Jess's and I stole it.
Well, that's not a bad thing though, because my hands have been starting to like dry out and crack from using hand sanitizer.
Well, you're not supposed to pour pure rubbing alcohol on it.
Well, but I got to do it all the time. I'm out in public, Robbie. My job's not like go to a place and stay there. My job's out doing stuff
in the world next to the gross humans.
Yeah, the disgusting people.
People are gross. So true, gross.
Robbie. It's true. It's so true.
You know who also doesn't like people and they think they're gross? Booney at factorfabrication.com. But he won't think you're gross if you want to do a project with him, like tables and tabletops and other such railings and things.
Does that mean we're going to open it up, Robbie?
It's been about halfway through the show. Yeah, I think we can open up.
At least, yeah. Well, so you always love to talk about your love for books.
I do. I read a lot.
And quarantine time, everyone's bored. What better to do than read books while you're stuck at home?
Because after about 36 straight hours of Netflix, you got to do something to get your brain going.
Ugh, it's a lot of Netflix, man.
It's so much.
So the Drive posted this list, if you will, about the books that you need to read while you're in quarantine. And apparently you have some hot takes on this list.
Maybe not hot takes, but I feel like I wouldn't say shit the bed, but they really left a lot of good stuff off. Like books I was shocked that they left off. But yeah, we can kind of go through it real quick. Do you want me to read them since I have it in front of me?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay, so they start with biographies, and obviously when it comes to motorsports, there's going to be a metric shitload of biographies because
so many biographies.
Every driver or anyone that's ever been involved in motorsports writes a book about it. But this one,
I've heard that a book deal is like basically a guaranteed $1 million.
Yeah, I think I don't know the specifics, but yeah, a New York Times bestseller usually means a good amount of money, like more than you would think.
Right.
Because when they're selling them between $20 and $30 a copy, and they're selling millions, that's a pretty. And I don't think
it's that hard to be a New York Times bestseller
It's not. It really isn't.
At least for a short period of time.
No, I think if you write like unless it's like super nichey that doesn't have a lot of people in it, I think if you just get it in front of people, it'll sell. Because I've been reading some books that are New York Times bestseller, award winning. I'm like, this sentence structure sucks. Who writes like this? But
this one sentence is half a page long.
It's not. I don't have it in front of me, but the Carroll Shelby biography that I picked up, I started reading.
Like Hell?
No, the Carroll Shelby specific. The Go Like Hell is the Ford versus Ferrari specific.
Oh, okay.
And we'll get to that one, but the Carroll Shelby biography, I can't remember who wrote it, and I didn't even put it in my stack of books because I didn't finish it. But I started it, hated the way that they used the word "than" in places that they shouldn't.
Instead of "then"?
No, it was no, not "than," "an," A-N, just "an." So like
"an,"
like the English "an."
Okay.
So like you would like where I would normally say a book. It was like it'd say "an book," or like it made no sense why they were using "an."
Oh yeah,
and
that's not cool.
And like halfway through the first chapter, I'm like, I don't like this at all, and I set it down and then never went back to it. I'm sure that's the only reason that I'm having a problem with it. The rest is probably perfect, but I just haven't gotten back to it. Just silly things like that bother me. But we can kind of get into this biographies. The first one they have, I have not read. It's the Janet Guthrie, Life at Full Throttle. This would be a super interesting book. If you don't know who Janet Guthrie is, you could listen to the Dinner with Racers episode they did with her. Super interesting. Yeah. She's like one of the pioneers of women in motorsports. I don't really know. I can't get into the specifics, but yeah, she did Indy 500, NASCAR. I mean, she was a huge proponent for getting women into motorsports. So that book would be very good. And she was super funny and fun to listen to on the Dinner with Racers.
Yeah, that was a really good show. Yep. It was one of the ones that I remember actually listening to.
Yep. So if
out of the so many,
if her personality comes through in her book, it'll be a very good read. So I have no problem with that being on the list, even though I haven't read it. The Bugatti Queen in Search of a French Racing Legend in Miranda Seymour. I don't know this one at all, or who Miranda Seymour is, even though I probably should.
I think that's just a writer. Miranda Seymour appears to just be the writer. The book is about
Helly Nice.
Hella Nice. Her name's Hella Nice.
Helly Nice.
Helle with a
not apostrophe. The accent mark above the E.
Yeah, and then Nice, which being that it's French is probably Nice.
Yeah, so she's a 1920s racer, a cabaret dancer, ballerina, and nude model. So I'm in. I'm all in. All in on this completely.
Oh, no.
She was largely erased from history after her rumored collaboration with the Nazis during the Parisian occupation of World War II.
Oh, now I'm less in.
Yeah, so that's not good.
A little less in now.
This would be it'd be interesting.
It's probably very interesting, but I bet it's not that car-centered.
No, probably not. Doesn't sound like it.
So, yeah. I don't know, maybe.
This one is one of the books that I've fought tooth and nail to find at a reasonable price. My copy is actually a former Milwaukee Public Library book because this was the only one I could get for less than $50.
Oh, geez.
And it is in rough shape. It is The Unfair Advantage by Mark Donahue, and this is one of the better written car guy books ever. It goes through racing in the 60s and 70s. He was a good racer. I mean, like, real technical as well, like an engineer. He could just lays out his whole getting into racing, all the setups, all the cars. I mean, it's just it's not quite engineering pornography, but it's really, really good that way. So yeah, that one definitely should be on every top reader list when it comes to like gearhead stuff. So yeah, absolutely. Unfair Advantage by Mark Donahue.
But be prepared to pay for it, huh?
Yes. Yeah, it's
if you want to just buy a digital copy, Robbie.
Yep. Nope. I have to have a book in hand. I have to. I cannot read a book on a tablet.
I can see where that would be difficult. Despite my dislike for paper, I kind of understand where you're coming from with the book thing.
I have two hobbies. One is reading books. The other is collecting books, and they're not necessarily the same hobby. So
I can see that as well.
So I have shelves of books, and I prefer them to be hardcover. So if I can get it in hardcover, I do. Which is kind of nice that the Milwaukee Library book is hardcover, even though it's clearly just a maroon book with some letters on it. No cover, no nothing. It's just, this is the book. But it was all there, so I'll take it.
That's what matters.
Yes. Up next is another one that this one's on like every list that I ever see when it comes to Gearhead books. It's The Mechanic's Tale by Steve Matchett. Life in the Pit Lanes of Formula One. And in concept, this should be really, really, really good. In reality, I was really disappointed because I read it.
Really?
Yeah, because I'm a huge Steve Matchett fan. I loved his commentary in Formula One. I mean, he was my favorite. So when Liberty Media took over, that was the biggest disappointment I had, was that he was gone. So I liked his insight. I liked the way he presented himself and the way he presented the sport. I am not the biggest fan of his writing. It just, again, everything in the book should be interesting to me. Everything about it should catch, like, he's talking about like the engineering and working as a mechanic and like being at like BMW and stuff like that, and he just didn't pull my attention in with it. Like, he focused on weird details and just like, it just felt like it drug on for like way too long for being not that long of a book.
Really?
Yeah, and maybe I honestly don't know why. It just felt like, okay, what next? Like, let's just go. Give me some details about what you're doing, like something interesting. But yeah, I was disappointed in that book, and I'm a huge Steve Matchett fan.
It's kind of a bum deal because that would have been one that I would have assumed would have been really good.
Yep. I put that one, like, I bought it and then leapfrogged a bunch of books to read it, and I was like, maybe not. The next one is Racing to the Finish by Dale Earnhardt Jr. Haven't read the book. Listened to his Joe Rogan podcast when he was promoting this book. I think that if this is the book I'm thinking of, this is the one where he talks about his concussions and stuff like that.
So talks about a lot about his concussions and the negative effects on racing.
Yeah, and his health, and so yeah, he talked. He didn't give away a lot of the book on the show. He definitely dove into the concussion stuff specifically on Joe Rogan's show. But this is
which
also
makes sense given the
he's promoting the book, but he doesn't want to give away his whole book. He wants people to buy the book. So that's actually on my save for later Amazon list. So I haven't bought it yet, but that's definitely getting read. Up next is Linda Vaughn, the First Lady of Motorsports. Again, I don't know the book. I know her from Dinner with Racers and, like, obviously who she is as a motorsports figure. But this really isn't on my radar for a book that I'm going to read. I
was going to say this would be pretty far down on my list of books I would need to get.
Yeah,
her interview with Dinner with Racers was not bad.
No, it wasn't bad at all.
I just don't. I don't know why I'm less interested in this one than I would be in, like,
she wasn't like it. Maybe if
she didn't, she wasn't a driver.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, she didn't really seem like a car person so much as just like
a celebrity.
Found that there's a bunch of hungry dudes in cars, and that was what she needed to, make a living.
Exactly. Tim Richmond, The Fast Life and Remarkable Times of NASCAR's Top Gun by David Poole. Again, not on my list. Haven't read it, so we can. Oh, so this is actually, yes, I know. I watched the what documentary did I just watch on this?
Isn't that Dinner with Racers again?
Dinner with Racers. Amazon just did a thing on him.
Yep.
Which was super interesting. Okay, never mind. Yeah, that would be because he got AIDS, and then that was. Yep. He was also the one that had his cock out in the NASCAR poster.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
Yeah, they did a whole. They did a whole, like, if you have Amazon Prime, watch the Dinner with Racers show. They do a whole show dedicated to Tim Richmond, and it's awesome. So, if the book's even close to that, it'll be really, really good.
The book says that it does not dive into the darker parts of his life after he contracted AIDS.
Well, we don't really need to see the dark, like after the sad, like all the sad and depressing side of it.
I think we know where that's going. I don't really need to read about it.
No, we want to hear about the partying and all the stuff leading up to that.
Absolutely.
We want to hear about the rock star lifestyle. So that sounds like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Tim Richmond, Fast Life. That'd be good. This one, Booney has recommended to me, My Greatest Defeat, Stories of Hardship and Hope from Motor Racing's Finest Heroes by Will Buxton. This one is like next on my list to buy. So it's got Dario Franchitti, Jeff Gordon, Niki Lauda, Jackie Stewart. And basically, chapters are dedicated to each driver, if I understand it correctly. And it basically just that gets that driver's perspective on hardships and then overcoming those hardships. So it's kind of like a motivational thing, like we all fall down, but it's the ones that get back up again that become great. So Booney has recommended this. He like soaked it up and read it right away. So I want to read this as soon as I can.
It says here it can be a tough read at times, but it's well worth every difficult moment.
Because life is full of train wrecks, and sometimes you need to be reminded that even the best have train wrecks.
That's the last thing I need to be reminded of right now, Robbie.
Yeah. All right, Holman Moody, the legendary race team by Tom Cotter and Al Pierce. Again, I don't know this one. I haven't read it.
Holman Moody had something to do with the 66 24-hour Le Mans.
Yep.
And that's a name that I'm familiar with, but I don't know why.
Right. And they describe it as a gorgeous coffee table book, which means it's full of photos, which could be good, but at the same time could be kind of take away from the actual story. Because I'm not a reader. No, I'm not a fan of coffee table books because I want to actually read and get substance out of stuff.
I don't know why, but I just can't imagine living in a situation where I would have a book on my table all the time.
It's a conversation starter. It's when you have a bunch of people over all the time. So I don't have that.
Yeah, I also have a 4-year-old.
No, exactly. I have SCCA magazines that I'm working my way through, and that's it.
Right. Yeah.
Next up is Go Like Hell, Ford Ferrari and their battle for speed and glory at Le Mans by A.J. Baim. I am a huge fan of A.J. Baim's writing. He does a really good job of telling history stories as if it was like a as if it was like an actual story, not just a telling of history. So it's
not like a long, drawn out, dry retelling of a.
No, not at all. Yeah. So
it's
obviously
not a history book.
Nope. And he did a lot of stuff for like Ford vs. Ferrari, the movie, and that movie is based on his book, which is obviously based on the reality of what happened between Ford vs. Ferrari at Le Mans with the GT40, and it's one of the best books I've ever read. So I can't say enough good things about it. This one if you're reading any book that has to do with like motor racing or gearhead stuff, this has to be at the top of the list. And AJ Baim is a really good writer. He used to write for Playboy. He does a bunch of like periodical type stuff, but then he's also every couple of years he comes out with these history based books. Like he's written about Ford building airplanes in World War II. What was the president? The book is called The Accidental President, and it's about, I think, Gerald Ford becoming president. I haven't read that one yet, but it's just, it's a really good historian when it comes to telling stories.
Huh.
Yep. So, Black Noon, The Year That Stopped Indy 500. Have not read it. The IndyCar Wars, the 30-year fight for control of American open wheel racing by Seeger E. Whitaker. I have not read it. I think we skip over these.
Yeah, there's a few in here that
Blood and Smoke.
Again, more death. I mean, I realize that that's a very integral part of racing, especially
in the 60s and
the
before,
history of racing. But like, man, it's kind of 3 or 4 books in a row here where kind of focuses on the deaths in racing.
Yep. Blood and Smoke, a True Tale of Mystery, Mayhem, and the Birth of Indy 500 by Charles Learson. I have this book, have not read it. It's on, again, I say a short list, but it's clearly a long list of books that I want to read. It's sitting right over there. So I need to get to that one. Driving with the Devil, Southern Moonshine, Detroit Wheels.
Hey, wait, hold up a second here. Yeah. So this says that in that Blood and Smoke book, it says it highlights a fact that many fans have forgotten, that we still really don't know who won the Speedway's first 500-mile race. That's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
That's crazy to think about. That we don't know who won the first 500-mile race at Indy. Huh.
Yeah, didn't they? I'm trying to think who dove into that.
Well, apparently this guy.
This book, but I think I watched something not too long ago that we were talking about it. But yeah, I don't know enough about it to speak about
that's total news. Never knew that. Very interesting.
Yep. Driving with the Devil, Southern Moonshine, Detroit Wheels, and the Birth of NASCAR. I think that'd be super interesting because yeah, I'm all about crime and racing, so this would be right up my alley.
Right. That's fair. I'll give you that.
Beast by Jade. Beast by Jade Gers. This is about the 1994 Indy 500, and it talks in depth about the Ilmor engine that was really controversial. So this is another book that it's really hard to get a hold of if you want a copy of it. It's actually,
is that one that's on your list?
It's been on my list for a while, but it's also one of those that seems like it's going to be really dry. So it has it just seems like a bunch of other books always jump in front of it.
I gotcha.
And then the next one is one of my all-time favorites. It's How to Build a Car by Adrian Newey. And if you order it as a hardcover, it shows up the size of an encyclopedia. It goes.
Jesus.
It is extremely well written. It is. Let me see. It is 390 pages long, and they're 8.5 by 11 pages, like an encyclopedia. So it is massive, and it's one of those books that I read basically cover to cover without setting it down.
And it goes really in depth into some of the stuff he did, some of the groundbreaking stuff he did on Formula One cars, isn't it?
Yeah, he basically, so he talks about his life getting into motor racing design and stuff, and getting into be like technical director, and then basically talks about the thought processes and the designs of the cars, and it breaks it down chapter by chapter. The chapter is labeled by the car that was made that year. So the whole chapter is focused on, is focused on the design concept of that car, what was innovative about it, what worked, what didn't, why it was successful or wasn't, and then then the next chapter is of the new car, the new regulations, and it sounds like it would be dry, and it's not. It's super, super interesting and pure racing engineering pornography. It is so good.
It is a book I would like to at least thumb through at some point. I don't know that it'll be anything I could ever sit down and read, but
you'd soak it up. Like it's one of those books you look at and you're shocked at how big it is, and then you can't believe how fast you got. Like I got through that in probably a third of the time it took me to get through Steve Match's book.
I can't imagine like being your wife, and I would walk into the house and you're sitting there on the couch. Like, I just picture you, like, sitting on the corner of the couch, one leg up, crossed over the other, reading an encyclopedia.
Actually,
and how ridiculous you would look in that scenario.
The funnier part was, we went to her parents' lake house, so I'm sitting on the dock reading my encyclopedia, and they're like, "Hey, you want to go?"
Your feet dangling in the water, just
yep. And they're like,
"Do you want hanging out?"
Hey, we're gonna go do like shopping or this. I'm like, I want to stay here and read my encyclopedia. I don't want to do that. This is Sunday morning. You do you. Let me just read my book and drink my coffee.
I'll be here.
I can listen to the boats. I can read my book. It's everyone's happy. And maybe if you're not happy, I don't really care because I'm happy, and that's all that matters right now. Because this book is great.
She was happy that you were leaving her alone, too. Let's be real.
Yeah, she can go spend time with her family, and I can read a book, and everyone wins.
Yeah, absolutely.
Until I don't win later, and I get in trouble. But yeah.
Yeah.
That book, right? Yeah. This book has to be read by anyone that's huge into racing. Or Formula One specifically, too. It's so good. Now we can kind of rapid fire through the rest of them. Rapid response. Yeah. This one's The Inside Story of Motor Racing Lifesaver by Stephen Olvey. This would be basically about what led to a lot of the safety, if I understand this correctly, that we have now.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. Apparently he was one of the top medical professionals for IndyCar for a long time.
Yep.
So I don't know that I could handle that.
I've come across it a few times. It's piqued my interest, but never enough to spend the money to buy it.
So, like, when Dinner with Racers talked to Jerry Punch,
yep.
Dr. Jerry Punch.
Yeah, I couldn't think of his name.
And I was listening to that, and he's talking about, like, some of the really more brutal accidents that he had seen and some of the nastier injuries that he had seen and helped with drivers. And like, it made me really, really uncomfortable.
Yeah. I mean,
because I know that it's dangerous
and you know, it's
sometimes I want to be able to distance myself from that thought.
Yes. No, I completely agree. And that's like on Rush, they talk about it quite a bit because obviously there was a lot of death even in the 70s.
Niki Lauda got really hurt,
right?
In that, in the sequence of events that happens in that movie.
Yep. And you always tell yourself it won't be you. Like we know going on track, even in time trials, at 160 miles an hour, shit goes bad fast. It's easy to end up like you can end up in a wall in a very dangerous situation doing time trials. Granted, it's a lot less dangerous.
Absolutely.
But you could easily put yourself in a shitty situation. But you always tell yourself, it's not going to be me. And honestly, if you don't do that, if all you do is focus on the fact that it could be you, it will be you. So like I always think it's kind of bad karma when I read about that or listen to stories like that. It's like, I don't even want it in my head. I don't want to picture how I could crash. I need to pretend that it can't happen. So it's just kind of a mental game thing. Because like, if I go onto track and I'm picturing a crash scene from that Burnout game on PlayStation 2, if I'm picturing those crash scenes as I'm going onto the track, what do you think I'm going to be thinking about as I take that turn? How I'm going to roll my car into the ditch or into a pole. I can't be thinking about that. I need to be thinking about how I'm going to execute the turn perfectly. So I don't know. Just to me,
I guess this is kind of a point of view that you have the luxury of not having. But for me, it became so much more real after I had a kid.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
And even in my day-to-day life, like the stuff that I did at work 10 years ago, I wouldn't do now.
No.
I used to do a lot of tower climbing, and I spent a lot of time on some very dangerous rooftops doing stuff. And like, I'm not afraid of the heights, and I'm not afraid of falling, but there are still situations that I put myself in without really a second thought that I would never do today.
Yeah.
Just because I have something that I want to go home to now. Whereas before it never crossed my mind because I was young and invincible and dumb. And now I don't want to think about it.
No, I get it, man. I get it. Not to that level, but I do. Like, things change as you get older.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
or
the skating stuff that we did back in the day.
Yeah. And I never felt like I was risking my life doing the stuff we were doing on skates, but there was probably a few situations where I could have come out a lot worse than I did.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, I think we've gotten pretty lucky on multiple occasions in that respect.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, we can kind of try to finish up this list. And I have a stack right here that I want to go through real quick on what they missed. The Science of Motorsports by David Ferguson, science-minded book. I don't know this one very well, and I don't know. Let me skip it. These are for the kids, so I'm going to skip those unless you want to talk about them.
Nope, because I don't know what they are, so I have no need to talk to you about them.
then they just added this. I think they added this after the fact, but this book that just came out on March 17. It's called Faster: How a Jewish Driver, an American Heiress, and a Legendary Car Beat Hitler's Best by Neil Bascom. I saw this get advertised the day it came out. It got added to my cart in Amazon. Have not ordered it yet, but I also sent it to my buddy Josh and said, "Hey man, I know you've been listening to a lot of books on Audible. Maybe you should check this one out. I haven't read it yet, but you should check it out." So this one's probably next to my books to buy new. So next time I make an Amazon order, I'll probably just throw this in the cart.
Fair enough.
So obviously I can't speak to it. It's only been out for like 14 days, but
a few days. Yeah.
It looked really good.
Is what it is.
But yeah, we can go through my stack of books that I think
you said you had a few that they dropped the ball on. So let's hear it.
Okay, so this book right here in front of me, I have The Car by Gary Paulson. And if you know who Gary Paulson is, he's the author of the books like Hatchet.
Dude.
Yeah.
I have such fond memories of those books as a small child. The Hatchet and Brian's Winter. And
exactly.
I swear there's a third one whose name I can't remember.
Yeah.
Brian's
Return.
Loved Brian's Return. That's what it is.
Yep,
I loved those books when I was younger.
Yep. His book Harrison Me is still one of my favorite books ever. It's about this kid that gets sent off to live with his cousin who's like backwoods, and it's hilarious. So it's like the city kid going to live in the country, and it's just I can't even explain it good enough to make it sound like you need to read it, but you need to read it. And it's a teenage reader book, so I mean you can knock it out in an afternoon type thing.
You can really burn through it.
Yeah.
So what's The Car about then?
So The Car is this.
Now I'm real interested.
Yep. So same author, and it's just as good. So it's about this kid that gets abandoned by his family. And so he's going to go find his uncle because that's the only person he has left in the world. In order to get there, he has to finish a kit car that's in the garage and then drive that kit car across the country. And then so it's about finishing the car and then driving it and learning to drive in the kit car and then driving that car across the country. And then he ends up picking up a hitchhiker. And it's like a book about self-discovery type stuff. And it's a book that's not on a lot of car guy lists that I think needs to be.
That's interesting. I've never even heard of it.
Yep, it's again really good book. I read it like in high school, and it's one of my favorites for a long time. We'll burn through these pretty quick. Niki Lauda's To Hell and Back, an autobiography. Another book that good luck finding. My mom found this somewhere online, and I think she paid way too much for it for a Christmas gift for me. But
I remember how excited you were to get it, though.
Yep. The first half is awesome because it talks about him getting into racing. It talks about like the struggles in racing, like the amount of money he borrowed and how much debt he put himself in because that was the only choice he was giving himself. He was going to be successful in motorsports or he was going to be bankrupt doing it. And then it talks about like the crash, and then it talks about kind of losing interest in racing, and then it talks about like his like the second half of the book's all about his commercial flight business he had after racing. So I think you kind of lose interest because I even like being in aerospace, I kind of lost interest in the aerospace side of it. But the first half of the book's really, really good. So To Hell and Back by Niki Lauda, autobiography, not just a biography. This next one, Crashing Cars: How a Motion Picture Franchise Turned into an Art by Craig Lieberman, and this is the technical advisor for the first Fast and the Furious movies. So he wrote a book about why they chose the cars they did, which of course wasn't his choice, and then how they made why the black guy's car had an Afro pick on it, or why those big stupid chrome wheels were on the Eclipse in Too Fast Too Furious. So if you like those movies at all, this is actually a really interesting book to talk about, have him to explain why they picked the cars they did and the things they did to them, and how they got the shots they did. So if you're kind of a movie nerd like I am, it was interesting. He's clearly not a writer, and he clearly didn't have an editor, but it's still super interesting.
That's really combining two of your things, though. Well, kind of three of your things, no less, because it's reading and books, which you obviously are a huge fan of, and it's movies, which we all know you are a huge fan of, because your movie review show was our first 2-hour show.
That's right.
And then it also is racers.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's kind of the Robbie Veerhout that we know and love.
But can you imagine if this guy wasn't involved and they actually made Brian's car a neon? Because that's the direction.
Oh, it would have been so good.
That would have been so bad. so bad.
Good. Robbie would have been an SRT4. It would have been great.
Terrible. But yeah, it's an interesting book if you like the movies at all.
My Omni would be worth so much more money if Brian would have drove a neon.
No way. That franchise would be worth. That franchise would have been worth $11. It wouldn't have worked.
That probably would have been better for most of us as well, Robbie.
Yes, but then again, I wouldn't have a 350Z and a 240SX, so if it wasn't for these terrible movies.
Nah, you'd have an SRT4. It'd be great.
God, I hope not. Anyways, moving on. The Art of Racing in the Rain. Not really a car book per se, because it's more about the driver and the stuff he deals with off the track from the dog's perspective. So this is just more of a book for everybody. The movie's really good. The book's really good. Again, it's one of those things you just burn through it right away. So I also recommend this book. This was on when James did his book reviews or book suggestions, because KingofMotorsports.com also has an article about books to read. This is on that list, I think, if I remember correctly. Then we'll go through these two. This next one we talked about when we had Alex Roy on the show in episode 78. The Driver by Alex Roy talks about when he broke the Cannonball record and got it in 32 hours and, oh shit, what was it? 7 minutes? That's not right. He needed to beat 32 hours in 7 minutes. Not important.
I wanted to say for some reason that he had a 44-minute something, but I don't remember for sure. I don't know.
He needed to beat.
I'm sure I'm wrong.
Yeah, his goal was to beat 32 hours and 7 minutes, and he did. And I can't remember what his time was. But this book talks about. It's written by Alex, and he talks about like getting into it and like how we went from like just doing rallies to actually doing Cannonball records and pursuing that. And then he talks about like the prep he did for it, the challenge of getting through it, and just all the other things he ended up doing afterwards. Because he's done like Miami to Seattle and like, because everyone always talks about New York to LA, but he's done these ridiculous ones that are like twice as long, but that no one else is talking about or doing.
Or he's done. I mean, he did Los Angeles to New York. He did it opposite in a Morgan 3-wheeler.
Yes.
Which had to have been an absolutely miserable ride.
That, and he's done it in Teslas, and because he's got like...
He was the first person in a Tesla.
Yep. So that book's super interesting. And then to follow that up, Ed Bolian's book, For the Record, when he broke that Cannonball record at 28 hours and 50 minutes, kind of the same concept where he talks about... It's kind of like, it starts as his autobiography in general about how he got into like exotic car sales and made his money, and then also talks about how like a guy like Ed, who's a devout Christian, very serious in the church, and then he's out there breaking laws regularly, chasing after a record like this. So it's a totally opposite end of the spectrum when it comes to personalities, because Alex is eccentric in one way and Ed's eccentric in the opposite way. But it's it's a very interesting book. So if you're into Cannonball at all, I would definitely recommend these two. I got 3 left. And then I got James Hunt's biography by Gerald Donaldson. This is the one I talked about with his son, Freddie, on that episode that I did with him, the first solo episode I did. This was the only book authorized by the family about James, and I can see why. It was written by a family friend. When he wrote it, it was clearly honest, and he didn't pull any punches, but he also wasn't judgmental in the things he said. So like he would talk about like the partying or like the depression outside of the racing, and you could tell he wrote it with pure empathy towards James. But he also talks about like getting into racing and all of his times through Formula One. So again, if you're a fan of James Hunt, that biography is incredible. Then, and this is one I think needs to be talked about more, that needs to be on everyone's list, is The Limit, Life and Death on the 1961 Grand Prix Circuit by Michael Cannell. It talks about Phil Hill. It's kind of like a Phil Hill biography and racing in the 60s, so it talks about like the death and like the challenges everyone faced racing in that type of time where it was so dangerous. But this one kind of goes along the lines with the Unfair Advantage or Go Like Hell, where it's just extremely well written, extremely detailed, and keeps you sucked in the entire time. So The Limit by Michael Cannell needs to be read by anyone that's into racing. And then this one, which needs to be read by every driver ever, Speed Secrets by Ross Bentley, because as far as I'm concerned, it's the race car Bible. That's it. That's all. The Ultimate Speed Secrets by Ross Bentley. I don't have anything else to say about that. You need this if you're driving. You need to fucking read that book.
Yeah.
Did I lose you?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, sorry, you cut out.
I think I have like a kind of a bad USB cable going to my mic.
Okay, no, you're good. I hear you now. Yeah, Ross Bentley's Ultimate Speed Secrets. I've read it cover to cover. I will read it cover to cover multiple more times. I guarantee it. All right, Adam. So what have you been up to now that we've talked about books? I know you and I both have kind of had a few things going on since we've been in quarantine. So you had some news, and I want to talk about that.
Well, so I do have some news. I was a little bit hesitant to talk about this yet because it hasn't really truly happened because I don't have it in my possession yet, but I know who owns it currently, and I'm not too worried about it disappearing on me. So I figured, what the hell, let's talk about it.
Plus, if you put it on the show for the millions of listeners and he backs out, we can hold him accountable.
Perfect. I will shortly, possibly even by the time this airs, be the proud owner of a Cavalier once again.
Yes. It has been too long.
So that it's just a base, two-door, of course, silver Cavalier. The 2.2 model. It's not the Z24. It's just the base 2.2. It is a 5-speed, so I will have my manual car once again. Life will be all well, and the stars will once again align. So I'm buying it from my buddy Josh, who tried his damnedest to find a 4-cylinder 1LE Camaro, and there were basically two in the country, and one of them was in Florida and the other one was in like Minneapolis, and the Minneapolis dealer basically wouldn't talk to him at all, and the Florida dealer wanted like $40,000, which is more than sticker after all this other stuff that he had to do with his trade-in and stuff like that. And so he finally ended up saying, screw this, I'm not doing that, and he bought a Sonic. No, a Spark.
Okay.
Sonic. Or maybe it's a Cruise. I don't remember. He bought the turbo one.
Okay. So the faster one.
It's the RS, and it's the trunk car, not the hatchback.
Okay.
That's all I know. And so now he's been daily whipping this Cavalier for a while now. He has no use for it anymore. He's selling it to me.
This is the one. Is this one he bought last year that he restored or fixed, or did he just buy it?
He bought it last year. He fixed a few minor things. So when he first bought it, it wouldn't run right, and there were some problems with it, and he was able to get it running on the engine that was in there, but it knocked real bad.
Yep.
I think if I remember right, that the kid had overheated it, and he had just gotten the head resurfaced and put the engine back together and was like ran it, but it knocked like crazy, and eventually that let go, and he bought a parts car for a song and dance. Yep. And he pulled the engine out of that, and I think just did like a light, gaskets clean up and overhaul sort of situation, and then threw that back in the car, and has been running around that way ever since. And basically he told me, and he's far more picky than I when it comes to mechanical situations, that he trusts it to take it pretty much anywhere, that it's mechanically sound and trouble free, with the exception of you got to be real sometimes you got to be a little bit careful about shifting from fourth into fifth, or else it'll grind. To which I responded, it's like 100 horsepower Cavalier. How often am I going to be slamming gears in fifth? So it shouldn't be too much of an issue.
Probably all the time. I assume you'll be driving the ever-living piss out of it all the time.
Well, yeah, but I really seriously doubt I'm going to be needing to slam gears from fourth to fifth.
Okay, that's fair. Up to fourth. Then you're,
sure. First, second, third, fourth, absolutely. But then once you're in fourth, then you've probably reached highway speeds, and now you're just going to overdrive for the mileage.
Exactly.
So it'll be fine.
We're not outlaws here. We don't slam fifth.
Right. He has a second trans that is coming with it, but it grinds into third, and he figured grinding into fifth was less of an ordeal than grinding into third, and so that's why the transmission that's in there is in there.
Oh, well, I would completely agree with that logic.
If it really bothers me, I can have the spare rebuilt and throw it in the car and move on with my life. Basically, he's giving me all of his spares parts with it, which means it comes with a second head and block.
Oh, nice.
But the head is basically junk. But that block is the same block that is in my S10.
Oh,
same engine that is in my S10, and my head I'm pretty sure is fine. The head I have on the S10, that the block is the issue, which means that I could make 1 out of 2 again.
Yes,
that block needs to go to a machine shop and be machined out, and and the crank probably needs machined, and it needs new bearings and the whole 9 yards. So it's not like I could just bolt the head on and throw it and have a running driving S10 again too. But it does give me the parts I need to maybe build that truck the way I want to, if I decided that that's the route I wanted to take. So
that's awesome.
I guess that is pretty cool. I'm pretty excited about that. I'm also very excited about getting literally double the gas mileage on my way to work every day and having a manual back in my life. Those are the two things that I look forward to the most. So I'm pretty pumped about it. I don't know when I'm going to get it, because this whole coronavirus thing is really throwing me for a wrench, and Joshua was 4 hours away from me, and I haven't really found anybody that is willing to go yet. I don't know when I want to go, because I am incredibly paranoid about this whole situation. Maybe I don't need to be, but I don't know. It might not be anytime soon before I go get this car, or it might be this weekend. I don't know yet.
You would be right to be paranoid.
So yeah,
just letting you know.
Like, I don't know. It's like, what do I do? I can't decide. Yeah. So we'll see. But I am probably the proud owner of a Cavalier.
Yes.
So I was really trying not to spend any significant amount of money until some of this blows over, because I am deathly afraid of not having an income for a period of time if I were to be homesick.
Right.
But not only has our government kind of alleviated some concern of that, but the price on this car is so low I can't pass it up.
No, I think you made the right call.
Yeah, I haven't paid him yet because he wants cash.
What a jerk. What a jerk. He could have the money in his account today.
I know, that's what I said. I was like, dude, I'll send it to you right now. Whatever you need me to do, I can.
Why does he have to hide things from his wife? Just send it to your account.
He's not even doing it. He said, because he's got a whole fleet of ridiculousness, and he's like, basically that money's just going straight into getting all the vehicles I own registered.
Oh. Yeah. Well, what difference does it make now? Why do you need
it in cash? You're not hiding it from your wife.
Well, not to mention the fact you can't register any cars right now.
Yeah, I don't think you can.
No, because I can't register the Z.
Oh, are they closed?
I even called. I said, I called, like, hey, I want to register my Z. But whatever. And she's like, yeah, we're closed to the public. Like, all right, well, I'm going to drive without a fucking license plate then.
Yeah, that was kind of what I was afraid of.
I'm just gonna drive it and tell them I tried. I did my best. Here's my title and all this. Here's everything for it. Here's my insurance.
Yeah, that was one of the things I had questioned. I wasn't real sure about.
No,
but
you can't get them registered.
Yeah, I kind of figured that was going to be the case. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm super pumped about it, though. The car is surprisingly rust-free for being an Iowa car.
Yeah, say a couple tiny spots, but that's it.
It's not pretty. Like, it's got it. I mean, it's
can we
a little
wrap
bit rough around the edges, but
can we wrap it?
I'm super pumped about it nonetheless.
Can we give it a livery? Can we wrap it?
If I'm gonna wrap anything, it's gonna be the Omni, man.
Fine, that's a better car to give a special livery to, though.
I even have one in mind.
I like where your head's at. We should do it.
So it just hasn't been a priority. So
I understand completely.
Yeah. So if I wasn't on a spending freeze, I would already have parts ordered and probably here for that car already. But yeah, I'm super paranoid about making sure that I can still pay my mortgage, and so I haven't ordered any of those parts because being an adult
sucks.
Blows.
I get it.
So, yeah, everyone's like, "Oh, stimulus check, yay, woohoo, woohoo!" You're like, "Yeah, that's
great and all."
It's like a week and a half's worth of income. Like that's not enough.
No, it's not.
To like
it's
really
not,
make
it's not
any
enough,
difference.
Man.
So,
no, not if you're out of work.
I don't know, man.
So hopefully it doesn't ever come to that. That'd be.
Yeah, I'm hoping that I'm just being wildly over paranoid, and that this stuff will blow over. And that in May, I'm just going to go on the most insane spending spree of my entire life and probably regret that too. But, it'll be great.
Yeah.
But if it isn't, I want to be prepared for that too.
Yeah. But, getting your Cavalier is a good thing. This will be a much better car for you. You'll be a lot happier.
Yeah. Literally double the gas mileage. I think the plan when I talked with Katie on the short term is to probably sell the Blazer.
Yep.
And that she'll probably drive the Focus for a while. What I would really like to do is sell the Blazer and the Focus pretty close to back and use the money for both of those vehicles to buy a van again.
Yes. Do adult
things. Because I want it back in a minivan because getting the kid in and out of the Focus, while not too bad, isn't going to be the most fun either.
No, not at all.
But the Cavalier won't be an option.
No, that's for you.
Two-door. That's going to be my get to work, and basically that's it vehicle. So I still have actually I may have given them back to Josh, but I'll get them back either way if he does have them. I'm not even sure where they're at. One of the two of us have the kick panels that I used to have in my Cavalier that hold a 5 1/4 and a 1-inch tweeter. One of us still has those. I still have a bunch of the stereo speaker box designs that I had throughout the years in that car. And I still have some of the stereo stuff, and I'm not ruling that out entirely either.
Oh my God, this is great.
So we'll see. A lot of the box designs that I still have require significant removal of rear sheet metal structure. And I don't think that I want to do that to this car this time. But I didn't plan on doing that to the last car to start with either. So we'll see where this goes.
It's a slippery slope. So I'm excited where this is going to get you.
Such a slippery slope.
That or you're going to end up having a cage in it and spec-letzing it.
Well, if I'm going to put a cage in anything that I currently own that doesn't already have a cage in it, I'd rather it be the S10.
Yeah, I get that.
The S10 is just a better aftermarket supported vehicle for that sort of stuff because I can get brake packages for it, better brake packages for it, and suspension options are much, much more plentiful because the front's just a G-body. So anything from 80s G-body stuff will fit. So I can buy stuff from Viking, and I can buy stuff from a bunch of other manufacturers and in literally any budget range I want. Whereas with the Cavalier, it's basically buying a Hot Boy octanes or like going with the custom route like I had to do with the Omni again, which is a life I kind of want to try and get away from. So as much as I would love to track a Cavalier, I think it's more realistic in where I'm at in my life to do that with the S10 if I were going to do a different vehicle than the one I already have. So
no, that makes sense.
That being said, I think as soon as the Omni is running again, I'm going to fall head over heels deeply in love with it again, and it's going to take like something along the lines of death to get it away from me. So
which is a good place to be in. I want you to be driving that car and having that
you
again.
And me both. So it's just a matter of time at this point. So I'm quite confident it will happen. I just don't know when. So
hopefully later this spring.
Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes.
Yep.
So,
we know better than to predict the future at this point.
Yeah, it changes every day, and so far it hasn't been changing for the better. So
no, it has not.
So my job is considered essential, and
mine is too.
I don't believe that there is any level of government command that's going to keep me at home, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it. So, short of like full on 100%, we're shutting this shit down, lockdown, which I don't think we'll ever get to. I think I will still have a job that I have to go to every day. So,
no, I get it.
Here's what it is, man.
Yep. The only reason I'm home right now is because I was knowingly exposed to a confirmed case. So,
yeah.
So I am back to work tomorrow.
Yep.
But I have been keeping busy by not going anywhere besides my home and just getting things done. But because everything got canceled, the money I had allocated for that got reallocated because in my eyes, again, it's kind of like with you, if shit hits the fan and I need to have money for mortgage and other necessities, my theory was a running Z is easier to sell than a non-running Z. So I was like,
that's fair.
So getting the money in the Z was basically where I knew I wasn't going to spend it on any track fees for the next few months and one lap at all this year because that got postponed until 2021. So again, that's what I get for wanting to do something fun. We just push it out for a full year. So I'll be so now Cannibal. So one lap is 2021 for me, but now I decided to take that money, throw it in the Z. So I spent a few different nights getting it aligned, just buttoning up with things here and there. The speedometer didn't work, so I got basically tore all that apart and fixed all that. Waited for the ECU to come in, which is really cool because I send it off, get a base tune, get NATs disabled because it has that security system. I think we talked about on the show where
a little bit.
Yeah, so basically it locked itself out, and I either needed to bring the car to a dealership and have them unlock me and reflash the ECU, or just spend the money and get a base tune, which I needed anyways, and then have them delete that or disable it completely, which is what I wanted. So I just sent it off, got the base tune, got that deleted, and they did like a 24-hour turnaround on it, and it was back in the mail. So basically it was only gone for a week. So in the meantime, got it aligned, buttoned everything up, basically got it so that I could just, as soon as the ECU was in, I could turn the key and go. But last weekend I had a wild hair that I'm like, you know what? If I'm going to do a vinyl wrap on this, I'm going to want my hood vents done. I'm going to want everything done that I'm going to start, that I have to drill holes for. Because if you drill holes around your vinyl, it ruins it. So I got a wild hair to just start cutting up my hood with a Dremel. So last Friday night while Jess was working Saturday, I basically went on SolidWorks, kind of had a rough design of what I wanted. Let's see if I can pull a better picture. So yeah, I designed it because I had my work computer at home. So I threw it on SolidWorks, eyeballed it, printed it off, went out there, traced it onto the car, mirror imaged it, traced that onto the other side of the hood, and was like, close enough. Just started cutting.
So were the locations of those chosen through some sort of somebody else's experience, or are you just like, this looks like a good place for these, and you just went for it?
People seem to put these all over. Like the people that make their own seem to put them more towards the front, almost like between the radiator and the actual front of the engine, which doesn't really seem like a great place to put them. So I've seen it, like there's a few hoods that have vents in the front, and there's also hoods that have vents in the back further. Whereas I kind of leaned towards the back and basically centered them above the exhaust, thinking that if I want heat out, I'm just going to take it from the exhaust. And that was really the only thought process I put into it. I was like, I kind of like where it looks. Putting the vents above the exhaust makes sense when it comes to removing heat. Good enough. Let's just start cutting. So I burned up a Dremel, finished the rest of it off with a grinding wheel on like a cutting tool, like an actual grinder. So for death wheel. Yeah. So for using a death wheel and then using a drill to get to drill a bunch of holes to get the corners, it actually turned out really good. Basically using a hammer and chisel and blunt tools, they turned out pretty good.
I thought it looked fine.
Just just don't put your head next to my hood and be a dick about it, and it's fine.
Once it's wrapped,
I can cover that up a little bit, and hide the imperfections and the mismatches.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not a show car, and it never will be.
Right.
So I did spend time getting that.
Here's what I think is funny about this. Just because I saw this recently on the SCCA Time Trial Facebook page, right?
Yeah.
I don't remember what class the guy was specifically talking about, but one of the classes has a hood vent square inch limitation.
Oh, really?
Right? Because if well thought out and properly designed, they can be a downforce adding element, right?
Okay, yeah.
And I think it's kind of like a cost prohibiting measure. They limited the square inches of vent that you can have on a car, and I think you're well inside of it. Not that I would think you would need to worry about it.
Yeah, I really didn't take off a lot of material.
What's that?
I said I really didn't take off a lot of material.
Right. Well, the guy was asking a question. He said, because he bought some aftermarket vents that you have to cut a hole out, and you rivet them into the hood, or you bolt them in, or however you do it.
Yeah, kind of like how I did my fenders. Yeah.
Right. And he was asking the question he was asking was, I think it's 210 square inches, does that space include the footprint of the mounting surface, or just the
opening,
the area that the fender or that the vent itself occupies? And there was some back and forth and some argument, and I didn't read enough of the comments to see where the end result was. But after I saw what you did, I'm just like, what? Why bother buying somebody else's hood vent?
I went down.
You have to cut the hole in your hood either way.
Yes.
Like, your hood's ruined either way.
Whether it works out or not, you have a big hole in it.
And so, even because I think that what they ultimately decided was that the mounting surface is included in the square surface, or the square inch surface area of the vent. And so, he was like real worried about that, and I'm just like, well, Robbie's solution here, that's not a problem anymore. Robbie, because I think it was like 2 or 3 inches of mounting surface all the way around.
Oh yeah,
and that eats up a significant amount of his square inch surface area that he gets.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I was shopping around for quite a bit because I kind of wanted to buy an off the shelf thing that I could just cut one hole and slap it in there, rivet it, kind of like what I did with my fenders on the 240.
Right.
But I wasn't going to spend $150 for vents. It wasn't worth it to me.
Well, and even if that's where you end up going, because these aren't 3D vents, they're just holes cut in a hood, and they don't.
Right.
like, okay, well, I tried it and it doesn't work the way I wanted it to, so now I got to buy the vents that I was trying to avoid buying. Like, who cares?
It doesn't cost me anything. Just a little bit of time.
Right.
My time's not worth
it doesn't
anything.
cost you anything to try it.
No.
And if you end up having to buy the vent and cutting the hole, what's it matter anyway?
No, it doesn't. No.
So I just thought it was kind of funny that this guy was, or the whole timing of the whole thing with you doing what you did and seeing this guy post on it about, like, what's legal, what isn't.
Oh, it never even crossed my mind.
He wasn't worked up and mad about it. He was just trying to get rule clarifications. But it was just kind of funny to me, like, Robbie figured out a way around that rule without even knowing it.
No, it was funny. Like, I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do, and I basically wanted to do what Booney and the guys did with the Z3 or the whatever. And get their hood vents that they had, and basically cut the hole out and rivet it in. And it's kind of where I wanted to go, but I didn't want to spend the money it would take to get the ones for the Z, and I didn't want to get some cheap ass ones like I did for the fenders on the 240 and just some plastic ones because they wouldn't look right. They would just be rectangles. And then I found somebody on it. I can't remember what car they did, where they basically drilled the holes out, or cut the holes out, and then put that like bumper mesh grill stuff behind it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So basically, I was like, well, let's just do that. And then I kind of created a design that I liked, where it kind of tapers and the wider ones are in the back, and it just kind of follows the body lines of the car a little. And then I was like, well, now I'll just cut out the inside of it, and then use a RTV and kind of glue in, not glue, but like hold in place that bumper mesh grill stuff. And
I don't even know that I'd put that in there.
I think it's going to look better, especially like it's going to look. I don't know. I want it in there. I think it'll look better.
I bet you'd be surprised how much that limits airflow out of there, though.
There's a decent amount of openness. I'm not overly concerned. So like. Yeah.
Okay.
If I don't like it, I can always take it out. So I already have the bumper mesh from the 240 the bumper I threw away.
That's fair.
So I'll just cut it up, put it in there, and see how it goes. So got that done. Got everything assembled. Got the ECU in. Took it for a test drive. It fired right up, no issue. A little bit of smoke because I can't remember how oily everything was before I started. But that went away after about a minute, and took it out for a spin. Had no brakes because I forgot how badly it was to bleed those. So I was pumping. Luckily I was on the gravel road, so it didn't really matter. So I basically could go through the gears to bring it back down to speed. And then I took it out for a spin to basically seat the rings. Uh-oh, you there?
Oh, now I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, we're good, though. I was still talking. But basically,
keep going.
Yeah, so I took it out for a spin, basically tried to seat the rings and just kind of make sure everything was running through its paces, hoping that I didn't get pulled over. Knew that the brakes were going to need to be bled, and then I went through an entire bottle of brake fluid trying to get them to bleed. Made no progress. You came over and grabbed the mic, mentioned that I should talk to Don, messaged Don, explained to him what my pedal was really squishy. I could pump it and get pressure, and then I could hear fluid moving, and it felt like it was coming from the rear. So he goes, "Yeah, take the calipers off, lift them in the air so that the bleeder valve is the highest point, and then bleed them." And sure as shit, perfect brake as soon as I did that. It took
so dumb.
So the bleeder valve is like halfway up the caliper, so air gets caught in the piston. I thought I was having air caught in the ABS module because it had been run dry. Not the case.
Yeah.
It was air in the piston the entire time.
It's so dumb. Why would you make the bleeder not the highest point in the system?
I don't know. Because like the not only is it air in the piston, which is or in the caliper, but there's also likely to have air in the lines because the lines go up or go back along the body, go up and around everything like the subframe, and then goes
to get up over the axle and stuff.
Yep. And then it goes into the caliper, which is below all that. So it's a really convoluted design, and it's notorious for having either air in the ABS module, air in the lines, or air in the piston. And apparently, I eliminated all of them but the piston until yesterday. But now I have a fully running Z, It's loud as shit.
And a fully stopping Z.
And it stops. And hopefully have a color scheme done this weekend. While I wait for my insurance and registration stuff figured out.
Are you keeping that on the DL?
The livery?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a secret.
That's fair. I'll give you that one.
James will love it.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
He has no idea why.
All right.
But James will love it.
All right. That's fair.
So I toyed with ideas over the winter of what I wanted to do, and I think it's going to be great in my head. We'll see if it translates to reality. Because if I hate it, I'll just pull all vinyl off and think of something else. But yeah, I'm super pumped about it. Took out for a spin right before you came over to grab that mic yesterday. It drives really well. I'm sure my neighbors hate me because it's so loud. So loud.
Yeah. VQ things. Do you have cats on that?
I have resonators.
Yeah, but those don't seem to do as much as you would hope that they would.
Dusty referred to them as amplifiers.
Yeah, so apparently cats are the key. That's another thing you should talk to Don about. Whatever exhaust setup he had on his sounded so good.
I do remember that.
And it made me fall in love with how the VQ sounded. And then I started going to all these track days, and I'm like, these cars sound like garbage, and it needs to stop.
It's not too bad, but it actually sounds worse in the car because of all the rattling.
Yeah,
just like because it has like no interior. It's just it's just
completely gutted.
Yeah, so it's really loud inside the car. It actually sounds better outside the car, but it's still extremely loud. I do have a silencer coming. Just like in the meantime, I can just throw it in there and drive it without being obnoxious.
Yeah, there you go.
Just drop it down a few, because I think maybe not this exhaust specifically, but the silencer I have coming, because this one didn't come with one, would drop whatever exhaust they had from like a 95 decibel down to like an 82 or something. So I mean, it's not overly dramatic, but definitely enough to make it not so obnoxious, and hopefully gets drops down that raspiness and that just that the noise that people hate.
It's kind of mid-range too, isn't it?
Yeah. Like
in the RPM range, it's kind of somewhere in the middle where it's the most obnoxious.
Yes. It's actually better when it's screaming like at high RPM.
Yeah. I wonder what's up with that.
I don't know.
That reminds me of something I forgot to talk about with the Cavalier.
Yeah, be my guest.
Josh is a known lover of obnoxious and loud exhausts, which means that it has a giant fart can on it.
Yes.
And I'm not like super pumped about that.
You can get a silencer. I have a spare.
He said he's got the plug in it right now, and he said it's not too bad with the plug in it.
No,
but I've never been that guy before.
No, I don't.
I've never owned anything except the Omni that didn't have completely stock exhaust. Even the S10 was stock from the Cat all the way back.
Oh yeah, it was. Wasn't
even
it?
With the turbo kit.
Right.
It was stock. It used the stock exhaust manifold, and then there was a cross pipe that was removed, and the turbo kit went in its place, and then it joined back up with the factory Cat in the factory location and went all the way out the back. So even that was essential, except for like a 2.5 or 3 foot long piece of pipe, was completely factory, and with the turbo on it was even quieter than stock.
Right.
Except when it made whoosh noises.
Well, now it's all changed for you.
Yeah. I'm not sure how that's going to go. I don't know that I can be that guy.
I don't think I can be the straight pipe Z guy, but I'm close right now.
Right.
I mean, it has two resonators and a muffler, so I'm not a straight pipe Z guy, but oh boy, definitely needs a silencer for now.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how that gets you.
Yeah. Maybe good enough.
You still have your fancy HKS exhaust setup from
I do have that. I have kind of toyed with the idea of just taking, or even just throwing like a vibrant high flow muffler or like a resonator or something in line.
Is that single exit or dual?
It's single.
Okay.
Yeah, so I have kind of I have options. I mean, they make stuff out there that I could just basically cut it off and throw it in line and bring the tone down a little bit and make it not so obnoxious. So I want a little bit of noise, but I also don't want to be the guy that you hear from 3 miles away. I'm just not that guy.
Right.
I mean, the 240 is loud, but people seem to look the other way when it's a V8.
Yeah. That's fair.
People don't complain about V8s. People complain about 4 cylinders and 6
it's
cylinders.
like Harleys.
Yes.
Know?
Yes. Exactly.
You get away with murder because it's just that certain thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, fair enough.
Yeah. It's getting late, man. You want to do the news presented by Apex Pro?
Let's knock it out real fast so I can go to bed.
Yep. ApexTrackCoach.com, as always. If you're thinking ahead for whenever our track season starts, you are going to wish you had a data unit. So ApexTrackCoach.com, you could use our code 10tenths for a free window mount. You definitely are going to want this unit once you're actually back on track.
So I will say this while we're all in quarantine. Even if you don't own an Apex, you need to be following them on Facebook.
Yes.
And on their social medias, because Andrew is doing so many live things and webinars and putting out so much content about using data and being a better driver and all that stuff and a lot of that stuff that he talks about. I mean, obviously he encourages the use of an Apex, but a lot of what he talks about is applicable even if you own one of the other data systems. So you should definitely be following them, and he'll make you faster no matter what.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So, man, Robbie, I don't have the news thing up because I don't.
Here, I'll do the first. I'll do the first one.
Okay, all right, that's fair.
All right, so just kidding, I wasn't ready. This bargain basement PC setup trounced $50,000 sim rigs. So was it Denny Hamlin that was doing the?
Denny Hamlin's in the big bad.
Yeah, he's
motion,
in the $50,000
full motion $50,000 simulator.
And then
Denny Hamlin is a NASCAR like pro level cup driver.
Yeah, he's won lots of stuff.
Yeah, he's a well-known name in the world of NASCAR.
And then this NASCAR driver who's does truck series, does lots of other things. He stepped in for Ryan Newman at Roush. It's Ross Chastain. He's the one that's running on this like Logitech G27 with like a laptop looks almost shittier than mine. And
I couldn't tell if it was a laptop or just like a really small monitor. But either way, it was not.
Yeah, it's like it
was
like
not
a
much.
16 or 17 inch monitor, single monitor, sitting on like a table, just like I'm sitting in now. So he's just sitting in an office chair, not even like an
office chair.
Yep, not a sim setup. He's just sitting in a chair with a wheel, and he's very, very competitive, finishing top 10 in these like invitation only pro races.
Beat out Denny Hamlin in a full on. And motion activated like $50,000 professional level sim rig,
and like 9 other professional drivers in professional sims.
Right. So the first thing that I love is the title of this article. This was posted on the Drive, the one we're talking about specifically. It says something to the effect of "Basement Bargain Sim Rig beats."
$50,000
full motion $50,000 simulator. No, the driver in
absolutely
beat. Let's not forget the rig had nothing to do with the driver.
No, it's the same software. You're just one's utilizing it differently.
Yes, I totally understand that there's a much higher immersion level. And that if you're using it as a training software, that the motion thing is invaluable. But at the end of the day, it wasn't the rig that beat the other rig. It was the driver who beat the other driver.
Absolutely. And it's also showing which driver has more experience on this sim.
Right. But this also shows that average Joe has the ability to be, at the pointy end of the stick.
Oh, definitely, definitely. I mean, Yeah.
You know,
I mean, sim racing and real racing is not the same. So like, which is why like on these Formula One Invitational only races, these guys that are mixing it up with the pros that are beating the pros, people are like, oh, Lando Norris is a pro driver, he's getting beat by all these guys. Like, yeah, but these guys only do this. Like,
yeah,
it doesn't always translate.
Put them in a real car, they won't be as good as Lando Norris is. I promise you.
They'll definitely have a leg up when it comes to driving because like they have the muscle memory, but it's not the same.
And I'm not saying that they're bad drivers. They're probably way better than I will ever be.
Absolutely, right there with you.
But
it is kind of frustrating that people don't differentiate sim racing from real racing. Or like, real racing is not the right phrase I want to use, but
in real life,
physical real car racing.
Yeah, like in a car on a track.
Yes.
So, but I think the big thing that we need to take away from this whole deal is that, you know, I've noticed a lot of people have really focused on like, well, I need to buy, you know, just like with real life in a race car racing, everyone focuses on, I need to buy this, I need to buy that, you know, I need more horsepower, I need more tire, I need better suspension, you know, whatever, because that's what I need to be faster. When in reality, it's the driver that makes the difference. And the same thing can be applied to sim racing, apparently.
Absolutely. I think like this,
and people get hung up on like, oh, I need to buy a $1,500 Fanatec, and I need to buy this $400-$500 rig to mount it on, and I need 4K. You know, I need three panels of 4K, and I need $4,000
virtual reality,
and I need all this stuff. Like, you don't need any of that stuff. You just need to do it.
Yeah, so it basically just get, especially if you're just getting started, just get something that works. You know, get the 3-pedal setup with a shifter if you like, and a wheel, and if you can go to Lowe's and build a rig out of 2x4s and throw a seat on it, even better. But you don't need to spend $700 to get started. You could get started for less than the cost of a PlayStation. You know, like $200 goes a long way. You don't have to have a $700 setup.
Right.
So, we were kind of talking about it off air, but like, because I mean, I bought my G27 for like $125 in college, and apparently they've gone, you know, crazy in price lately. Because like, this article said that you could buy one for like $750, which is insane to me. Because
I still think there's something fishy about that.
That can't be right. A G27 can't be $750. There's just no reason for it.
Well, you know, like when you go on to Amazon or eBay sometimes, and you'll see things that are just wildly priced, and it doesn't make any sense, and they're usually scams.
Right.
I assume that's what they found.
Yeah, they knew the number what they were looking up, but they couldn't find one that was actually for sale.
They sorted by highest to lowest and went with the first one that showed up.
Right. Yeah, it's that's not right. There's no way that please do not please do not spend $750 on a G27 under any circumstance. There's no way that a
3-generation old wheel is worth that kind of money.
No, you should be able to go all in, ready to go with an iRacing subscription for $200 just to get started, and you could do it for less.
A wheel and get the ball rolling.
Yeah, and you could do it for less. You don't need to have the shifter setup. You don't need to have the 3 pedals. You could have just a wheel with paddles and a 2-pedal setup, and it'll cost you like $70.
I don't currently use my shifter.
I refuse to use it.
I drug mine out here this weekend and was playing with it with the kid and stuff.
Yep.
And I use the paddles because the shifter mount on my chair does not work with the Fanatec style shifter. It's designed for a Logitech style, and it won't fit on there. And so I just don't use it. And I tried clutching with paddles, and I don't know what it is, but I just could not get it down, so I don't do it.
No. See, I know I won't. I don't know any time in the future that I'll be driving a car with paddles, so I just refuse to. I want to work on muscle memory.
Yeah, and if I had the choice, I wouldn't do it either.
Absolutely.
But it is what it is.
But if we need to take a grinder to your sim rig, I'll totally do it. I've got a lot of practice in lately. We can make your thing fit.
No, what it is that I need to fabricate a real mount.
Okay.
So they make different kinds of mounts, and there's like it bolts to the side of the rig.
Yes. And
you just buy different ones. But when I first acquired that, and I was looking at tech at the time.
Yep.
I don't know if that's changed or not, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to end up in a different wheel here soon anyway, because I want one that's Xbox One compatible. So I found out that so with Forza, they have classes. It starts at F and it goes up to A and then goes to S. And then I think there's like an R1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
You know? So we've got a little kind of a friendly competition going on. If you're a Forza 7 player and you search for 1010's podcast on Forza 7, there's actually a club with that my buddy Josh is kind of running for the time being, because I don't have Forza 7. But they started out, they were going to do, because Sebring was supposed to be when this kind of first started. So it was Sebring in I think either a Class A or Class B. I think Class A car. Maybe it's B. It's probably B. Doesn't matter.
No.
The time that Josh put down on that in 7, so I still have 4 on my 360. And I was going through some of the rival times that we have, and there was one in Sebring, and the time that he put down in 7 was only like a second slower than the time that he put down in an R3 class GT3 Cup car on Forza Motorsport 4.
Yep.
So clearly their classing system has changed, because Josh has always been faster than me, and I have no problem admitting that, and I'm quite certain that he is faster than me, and that if things were equal, I still couldn't catch him. But I was a full 10 seconds slower than he was, whereas normally I'm within 1 or 2.
Right.
I'm certain that there's something wrong there.
Yeah, because
fortunately, I can't just I'll just race on 4 and share my time on the Facebook page. I can't do that. So I'm going to end up buying a wheel, which I didn't really want to do.
Yeah, but you'll be able to mix it up with everybody then.
Yeah, my kid was really enjoying it, so I think I can get that by without Katie getting too annoyed with me. So
perfect.
That's what matters.
Yeah, we can move on then.
So, yeah.
So, Honda is doing wonderful things. They realize that their customers do not like touchscreens for everything, and they're going back to knobs.
Probably is the best news ever.
Honda, thank you. Thank you.
Somebody finally gets it. So they've already gone back to the volume knobs. I think we even talked about that 2-3 years ago.
Yes.
Already. But they've also decided that they're going back to HVAC knobs, and their design guy was specifically quoted as saying that the reason they're doing that is because touchscreens are not intuitive and they're too distracting to the driver, and that needs to be, car design needs to be focused on making that as easy and simple as possible.
Absolutely. I mean, and it doesn't take a brain scientist, a brain surgeon or a rocket scientist or anyone with a brain to realize that if you have to click multiple menus to get where you want to be, it's too much time away from focusing on driving.
It's too complicated.
Like if you can measure it in seconds. Let's just say, like, I'm driving. How long does it take you to reach down, or how much time do you spend looking away to reach down and change your temperature buttons. You can do it without looking down.
So as long as it takes for me to fire off a couple word long text, and that seems to be a thing that we're all hyper concerned about people doing.
Right. But if you have
it's perfectly fine to change my temperature settings. That's not a problem.
Yeah, so you have to go the Fords can be bad about that too. But if you have to go to a touchscreen one, you have to click a couple menus, change a couple things, and you are legitimately looking away from the road. So if you can measure it in seconds, it's very obvious that you need to be doing something different. And Honda looks at it and like, well, it's kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And I'm completely on board. I am a grumpy old man when it comes to this. I want my buttons and knobs. Touchscreens are dumb. I hate them. Even the primitive Chevy one I have from 2008 is too much touchscreen for me, in my opinion.
Yeah, my dad, this is like his biggest gripe about modern cars. And nothing would make me happier than him buying a Honda for this sole reason. I know it won't happen, but it would be hilarious.
Let's say Chevy goes all the touchscreens, and then Toyota goes to this type of setup, because Toyota would probably follow Honda rather than Chevy.
Yeah.
I could see your dad in a Toyota.
My dad would probably buy a Toyota. I don't think he'd buy a Honda.
Well, Honda doesn't make pickups, so there's that. And a Tundra is a nice pickup. I mean,
like, to put my mom in a car, my mom will never drive a crossover. She wants a car.
Right.
Like, that is her. She needs a car. She does not want a crossover. She does not want a van. She wants a car.
Right.
And that makes perfect sense for her. But, I don't foresee them buying a Honda anytime soon.
No.
But I know that my mom really, both my parents are fairly impressed with the Toyota that my grandma has, and I could see them in a Toyota if that came to be a thing.
Yeah. What? So. Oh, come on, man.
Sorry, work call.
Rude. Do you have to take it?
We should probably wrap this up real quick.
Okay. Last thing we got here is that the new Ford Expeditions still do not allow for you to have the newest car seats, some car seats, and utilize the inflatable seat belts. I did not realize this was a thing. They've been around forever.
They have airbags on the seatbelt itself.
Yes, and I actually did a decent amount of research into this because it's been around for years. I was totally unaware of it, but Ford's been making these inflatable seat belts, so it's like they're 2 to 3 times thicker than a normal seat belt, but it's got an airbag in it across your lap or across your your chest down to the lap belt. So if you get into an accident, it basically fills it with I don't know if it's CO2, but it's a cold air. So then it puffs up like an airbag, and it's supposed to kind of suck you into the seat and hold you tight and keep you safe. But this creates a lot of issues when you try to attach a child seat to a car that has these. I assume that you added this for a reason.
Well, so first of all, how does a vehicle that's kind of expressly manufactured for the family,
right?
How do they miss that detail? And secondly, I'm a little confused by this. Maybe it's something I'm missing in the style of car seat that they're talking about specifically, but like most modern vehicles have car seat anchors now.
Yeah, the latch system. I thought
and you don't even use the seat belt.
Right.
Yes, and it's way more secure. It's way tighter. It's way better. It's way less of an issue. It's much easier to set up, frankly. I was a little confused by the whole, like, at first I was like, what the hell, Ford? Why would you be doing that? Why would you be making a system that doesn't work with car seats? And then the more I thought about it, I'm like, wait a second.
Yeah, they do.
Does that mean they not have anchors in their seats? Because like your Avalanche only has it on one side.
Right.
And that is a little frustrating, but kind of makes sense. Fine, whatever. But like to make a 3-row SUV that is all but specifically built to haul a family, if that does not have seatbelt or
the latch
if
system,
that does not have anchors built into the seats for a child seat. What the hell, Ford? What are you doing?
I think that actually it has to have the latch system that you're talking about, the anchors, and I think the person that wrote this article clearly doesn't have a child,
or was maybe looking for something to complain about.
Yes, because I kind of skimmed through the comment section, and again, I wasn't familiar with this because I don't have a child.
Yeah.
I've never installed safety seats. So like and I also was totally unaware that Ford even had this feature of the airbag seatbelt thing. I didn't know that was a thing, even though it's been around for like 10 years.
Well, that just kind of shows the generation of cars we drive.
Right. So yeah, I looked into it. It's just like there's a huge list of manufacturers that make compliant seats that could utilize this, and then there's every other seat out there that uses the latch system that all cars are federally mandated to have. So
they are?
Yeah, that latch system's been federally mandated, and I can't remember for the year, but it's been years.
Yeah. So if I remember right, of course, my van, which I think was an 05, had it.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure my Focus, which I think is also an 05, has it.
I want to say 2002 is when it was mandated, and maybe.
But like my Blazer, which is like a 98, 99, it does not have it.
Yeah. So let's just assume my assumption of 2002 is about right for federally mandated, which would explain why the Avalanche has it, even though it's in one side, which is dumb. But like a brand new car should have it, so this should be a non-issue.
You would think, unless my only question was, I wonder if booster seats maybe don't use the latch system.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like that for like
like that awkward age where the kid's too big for a full seat, but he's not big enough to not be in something.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know anything about those because I haven't had to shop for them yet.
That would probably be where you could start to have issues. But yeah,
but you would think that even if the kid's using the lap belt, you would think that the seat itself is still anchored to the. Like, because you don't want the seat to move around if the kid's not in it.
Right.
So even if the kid uses the lap belt, I'm sure that it still ties to the seat anchor. So I don't know what the problem is.
No, it definitely seems like complaining for the sake of complaining. And
I think that's what it was.
Truly, at first I was vetting a subject.
At first I was like, kudos to this Car Connection guy for like doing some real journalism and like finding a real problem with a car and trying to bring it to the masses. And then as I thought about it, I was like, wait a fucking second.
No.
I think this is the exact opposite of what my first
I think
initial instinct of this was.
I think you're right with that thought. Because then there's another website, like cars.com has a huge list, and it just lists out every manufacturer that has seats that can work with it, which is all of them. And then they have seats that won't work with it. That you have to use the latch system. It's just
right.
A little bit of research. You could, if you're one of the few people that's buying a 2021 or 2020 Ford Expedition with the highest package, you have options. If you're spending $80,000,
platinum, it's standard, and in the lower editions, it's an option.
Right. So this is an issue for like 13 people in the whole world.
Yeah. You're probably not wrong.
So, and let's assume that if they have the money for the $80,000 Expedition, they'll buy the seat that works.
Yeah.
And they'll never even know this was an issue.
So, funny car seat story, real quick.
Yeah.
So I have a Recaro chair for my kid, right?
Yep.
Obviously. Race car things.
Naturally.
A couple of weeks ago, we were at our local grocery store, our local Fairway here in town. For those of you who don't live in Iowa, Fairway is a grocery store chain. Fairway is owned by like a very ma and pa style family. Like they're closed on Sundays, and they're very Midwestern, right?
Yes.
And so one of the things that Fairway is known for is that they bag and carry out your groceries. Like it's not even an option for me to push my cart out to my car and unload my groceries. They do it for you. They won't even entertain the idea of letting you do it if you ask.
It's
not an option.
It's offensive for them to take a tip too. You can't give them a tip.
They won't take tips, nothing like that, right? So 98% of the time, the people who are doing the carryouts are high school kids, right?
Of course.
And we go out there. I open up the hatch to the Blazer, and he's loading the stuff in there, and Katie's putting Logan in his car seat, and the kid goes, "Is that a Recaro baby seat?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, it is." And Katie goes, "Oh God, you just made his day." And I was like, "Heck yeah, dude! I'm so happy right now."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, that's so cool." And I was like, I had to have the race car parts, and he was like, "Yeah, that's awesome." So Katie was like super annoyed that somebody would, because she really did not want that seat, and she hates it.
It's the only option.
It's kind of big, it's kind of bulky, and it wasn't cheap, and it doesn't have like cup holders or anything like that. Like it's kind of a no option, like short of the fact that it says Recaro on it. Like I would never have actually bought this seat, but I had to have it. There was no option. There was no discussion. We were buying this car seat, and for this kid to like catch that out of the back of the truck and like comment on it, like completely validated the whole thing in my mind.
Of course.
And Katie was so mad about it. It was so funny.
Well, when it comes to the safety of your child, we don't worry about the extra creature comforts. We only care about safety.
So this is the second one I had. The first one we had was the like smaller kid style one where the seat removes from the base. You know,
I remember that one.
Infant, it's rear facing.
Yes. And
I bought that one second hand on Craigslist, and we met the guy at a gas station and exchanged cash.
Pain in the ass.
And he said, I remember specifically, he said something to the effect that, he's like, I know, Recaro, they're kind of more expensive or whatever. And I said, yeah, I know, but I really wanted the Recaro seat, because it ties to racing and I'm kind of a car guy or whatever. And he goes, yeah, the way I looked at it, I figured if Recaro's good enough for Formula One, it's good enough for my kid. And that's why I bought it.
Agreed.
So that was his logic. Whatever it takes, man.
Yep.
So my kid's trying to break the door down, so we should probably shut this down.
Yeah, it's getting late, and I got to get up early. So yeah, I will let you go, and we will try to catch everybody again next week.
Absolutely.
See ya.